Such a dastardly crime. Huh. And I thought you were ready to give up.
My heart can't see you, baby, unless you tell it. My heart can't see you, baby, unless my heart can't see you, baby, unless you tell it. My heart can't see you, baby, unless
Today's show is brought to you by Airline.
American 1027 is on the visual.
American 1027 on to tower, wind 250 at 17, depth 23, flying an airbus 3 mile final, runway 18 right, clear to land.
Clear to land 18 right, American 1027.
That's a solid intro. Coming to you live from anywhere and everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, and Aggies alike. We would like to welcome you to Inside the Airlines. I'm Ryan, the founder and president of AirlineGeeks.com, and we have a great show coming up for you today. So hope you stay tuned.
My name is Tyler. I'm a 6-year airline employee with experience in everything from baggage handling, customer service ticketing agent, flight attendant, and internal training operations.
And my name is Parker, and I'm a senior writer at AirlineGeeks.com. I've been writing for the site since last August, and have been doing aviation photography for the last 2 years.
We're also today, we're going to take an in-depth look at some of the week's trending stories in the airline world and what that means for you. And today we also have joining us Joe, Airline Geeks Editor-in-Chief, Joe Pizek. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today, Ryan.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we are here, and I know we have a good show planned for everybody today. Some cool interviews. I have an Aviation Day plug, but we'll save that till the end, kind of the best for last. And some good headline stories to talk about. So, Tyler, been good? Everything all good on your end?
Definitely, man. We've been really good, except for this morning. You guys don't know about this, but our listeners don't know. This morning we were setting up, getting ready for today's show. Well, I was, and I'm just sitting here enjoying my coffee, having a good time, and I spill coffee all over my MacBook. I mean, all over it. It gets inside the keys. And of course, the first thing my MacBook does is the screen glitches and it powers off. So I'm flipping out at this point. I don't know what to do, what I'm going to do, anything like that. I mean, there's literally, I don't know what to do. So I pull out my phone and I Google it, what happens when you spill water. And of course, it's like doomsday on the internet. So everybody's telling me you're screwed. There's nothing you can do. So I'm freaking out. And eventually I take a towel to it and I'm dampening it and I'm pouring the water out. And there's literally coffee pouring out of my laptop keys. And I'm like, great, this is it. $1,000 down the drain. So then I'm taking a blow dryer to it. Finally, I stuck it outside on my patio and put it on the in the sunlight and just let it sit for a while. Now the internet said, hey, if you let it sit for a couple days, it'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I got to let it sit, for a couple days in the sunlight. And I went to go move it and the screen was on and everything was working. So here I am talking to you guys via my MacBook, which somehow survived a massive coffee spill this morning.
That's
It's good to have you. I'm glad you
that's
made it.
hilarious. It's amazing what the Arizona sun will do.
Yeah, it'll save laptops apparently. So if you want to save your laptop after spilling things on it, just move to Arizona and it'll work out. But oh my gosh, what a crazy morning it's been. That is for sure. But on top of this morning, we did get a great interview in with our friend who's an air traffic controller. He is being referred to as Lou, and super nice guy. And we really appreciate him taking the time. So we got that interview coming up for y'all later today. But did everybody have a good week? Joe, welcome to the show, man. We're glad you're here.
We're
Looks
glad
like his
you're
mic
here.
is mic is still on mute.
That reminds me of a good old-fashioned safety video. I don't know if any of you guys remember that.
We're glad you're here. That's right. What a
Yes.
great safety video that was. That
Those
is
were
for
the-
sure.
Those were the days.
The days. Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So obviously I'm the editor-in-chief at Airline Geeks, so I'm overseeing a team of about 15 writers that are spread across both the U.S. and Europe as well. We've got a growing team over there across the pond, and really helping develop writers and really get their skills intact so they can someday find a career related to aviation. So we have people all the way from being pilots for major airlines across the globe to people that are young and in high school that really just want to develop the writing skills to get them there. So my goal as the editor-in-chief is really to help mentor them and develop those skills so that they can one day be there.
Awesome. Joe's great. I just met him, but he sounds awesome. I know, Ryan, you've been working with him for a while.
Oh yeah, Joe's awesome. Joe is the man.
Oh man, we're so glad you're with us, Joe. But Joe's gonna be with us throughout today's show. We've got some great headlines we do have to get to today, though, and there's a lot of things happening right now in the airline world, and I mean a lot of stuff. But since Joe is here and he's our guest, Joe, we know that you had a great article that you wanted to talk to about what's going on over in the Gulf region, and so let's go ahead. Let's just get into it. Let's start today's show, and Joe, you want to kick us off?
Of course. So obviously there's been a lot of controversy in the Gulf over the past couple of weeks, particularly with Qatar losing its diplomatic relations with some big Middle Eastern countries over there. It's really wreaked havoc across the region for numerous things, but aviation obviously being one that's close to our hearts. So essentially right now, Qatar Airways, who is the state-backed carrier of the nation based in Doha, is not allowed to transport passengers through a lot of these big countries that it's previously gone through, such as the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and such. And it also can't transport passengers to destinations in those countries. So it's really getting stuck in this place. And my article was saying that, if Qatar Airways is going to struggle, what are some opportunities for both Etihad and Emirates, the big carriers in the UAE, to take that capacity and really do some good with it and really win over some customers in that region?
Awesome. It was really interesting to take a read at it. I don't know. Tyler, what do you think about all this, man?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is just like he mentioned. This is huge. I mean, you're taking a look at it, literally shutting down an entire airspace. You know what I mean? This is not only affecting, the air traffic, but this could initially affect, the economy and things like that. So, I mean, Joe, you did some research on this. Was there any evidence of that occurring already?
So really, it was amazing at how quick the economic impact was, because it wasn't one of those delays where they say, over the next 1 to 2 months, we would appreciate it if you would stop flights into and out of our country. It was, hey, you have 48 hours to not only get all of your planes out of our country, but also any people that you have working across the border right now need to be out in 48 hours as well. So it caused a lot of mass hysteria across the way.
That's incredible. So, I mean, you're taking a look, like you said, imagine if anything like that happened in the United States. Obviously, that probably would never happen on a, national scale. But I mean, let's say even if it shut down just a state, you know what I mean? Something like that. You have to put it into perspective on this side of the world, especially in the Western world. That would decimate a lot of things, economically and transportation wise. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how much, the economy relies on the airlines.
Yeah, that's very true.
One thing that I found that was interesting is we always talk about how some of the American carriers get competitive, and people from Delta don't like to be associated at all with United or American, and everyone's kind of competing head to head. But they've had issues gone all the way up the political spectrum so far now that actually in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, if you're caught wearing a Barcelona soccer jersey that has the Qatar Airways sponsorship on it, you can get put in jail.
Wow.
So it's really gone to great lengths to really, really hasten against the Qatar nation.
Wow. So looking at, we were talking about the economic impacts, but I mean, what's this going to do specifically for, the airline, of Qatar? How is this going to affect them? Does this go as deep as, will this maybe prove what the U.S. airlines are trying to point out, and that they're cheating and being subsidized by their governments and things like that?
So it's interesting you asked that. Qatar just reported their most recent earnings, and profits are up 22% year over year, according to their estimates. And the interesting piece of all this, though, is actually a consultant in Dubai had said that this travel ban and the whole political standoff right now takes away about 18% of Qatar's total available seats in the market. So really, that's a pretty big damaging fact if you think 18% of all of its seats flown globally. So really the question is now, within those countries, what can Emirates and Etihad really do to step up their game? Can they redeploy aircraft that they've previously been using to the U.S., which has been a struggling market for all the Gulf carriers, given the recent laptop bans and some of the executive orders coming from President Trump?
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting. And Tyler, I'm sure you can attest to this too. Like I can, as somebody who's worked closely in the airline business, that 18% loss of passenger seats. I'm not sure if that really equates to a load factor, but that's a pretty substantial number. It may seem less than 50%, so you may roll your eyes and say, so what? But that's a pretty good number. That's a pretty good chunk of seats.
I just can't get over the fact that their profits are rising that much. I mean, it really does, in a way, either roundabout way or even directly, depending on who you ask, just confirm the exact argument that Delta and American and all these guys have really stepped up to the American government to fight. This is what the reason why they're upset is that these airlines are still staying afloat after doing absolutely ridiculous things. And, I don't know the whole backstory, but according to the U.S. airlines, I mean, these Gulf carriers are just lying about, where they're getting their sources of incomes from, or either that, or they're not lying about it, but they're just cheating, and they're just doing what they can, or what American carriers view as cheating, but it's a really big deal, especially, in the airline industry here in the U.S. I mean, they're really pressing it all the way from their calling on their employees to lobby with their local Senate and Congress people and trying to get something done, at the, executive branch level, if you will, to change this. That's just so mind-boggling to me that their profits have risen, 22% this quarter, especially after everything that's going on between the laptop ban and now this.
Yeah. And so one thing that I would note, and something that continues to come up in the Gulf carriers argument, and where they challenge the U.S. carriers with their argument, is they say, show me a route where we are competing head to head and we're subsidizing against you. And I think that the American carriers have always struggled with this argument, other than to be able to say that, our counterparts in Europe right now are really struggling. The British Airways and Oneworld, American having such a strong partnership there, or Lufthansa over there that's struggling as well. So they see the comparison and the competitive factor there, but it becomes a harder sell when United, I believe, had a route to Dubai for some time, and maybe Doha.
From Dulles.
Outside of that, there hasn't been their real competition to India and a lot of these markets the Middle Eastern carriers serve. Yeah,
there was a whole story. And you bring that up, Joe, because Dulles to Dubai, they operated that route for a pretty good amount of time. It was some U.S. government would use it all the time. and that was their contract was for that route. And then it shifted to JetBlue, their contracts. It got complicated. And then obviously the JetBlue is interlined with Emirates, and then there was no reason to operate the Dallas-Dubai route because the load factors were so low. So it's interesting you bring that up because even Delta did Atlanta-Dubai at one point. I don't think any U.S. carriers have served Doha, or at least in the history, I don't think any U.S. carriers have served Doha. But I know Dubai was served for a while, but United and Delta both. And it makes you wonder, with stuff like this happening in the middle of these geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, it will make you wonder if U.S. airlines will jump on that.
I wonder if
we'll jump on that and say, well, you know what? If you guys are having such a hard time, we can probably hop over there. But these numbers aren't showing that. So
no, definitely not. And what's interesting now is, in conclusion to all of this, is what happens next. I mean, where does Qatar go from here? How does Etihad and Emirates? I mean, we've seen a little bit of how they're making it work, but where do they go from here? I mean, how do they either A, fix this, or B, learn to live with it?
And you know that their CEO, obviously, His Excellency Akbar, is a very vocal leader, to say the least. And he always has commentary on the way things are going one way or another. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out over these next several months, what he believes is the plan for Qatar moving forward.
Definitely. It's going to be extremely interesting. But I wanted to kind of move down the list a little bit here, and not just these Gulf carriers, but now we've got another controversial issue. And Mr. Parker, I think you were going to talk a little bit about this one. We'll come back to the other stories we had today, but I wanted to, since these are so tightly knit, especially with controversy here in the U.S. And Mr. Parker, you were talking about the Norwegian story a little bit right now, and there's some breaking news coming out of that camp. Do you want to tell us what's going on with Norwegian Air?
Yeah, sure. So earlier this week, Norwegian announced that they transported more than 2.9 million passengers across their route network in May, which is a year-over-year increase of 11% compared to the last May. And it's also, it is a slowing of growth in comparison to April's 15% growth, but still pretty staggering up there in the double digits. Their success, however, has come with backlash from carriers on both sides of the pond, but especially U.S. carriers, who complain about everything from the fact that they have some subset of operations based in Ireland, which enables them to avoid stricter labor laws in much of Scandinavia, to everything from the fact that they have subsidiaries spread out across the globe, allowing them to bypass other regulations that might otherwise prevent the same type of growth. It's crazy to see the growth they've endured. Especially given that they're not under the same type of controversy as the big Gulf carriers, but it's just a different type of controversy. So, what do you guys think?
It's obviously a huge deal. We're talking, coming from a union standpoint, at least at my airline, it is a huge deal. They're really, really pressing us to get involved with this. They think Norwegian Air is one of the biggest threats to our jobs. The companies in general, they tend to focus on the Gulf carriers a lot, and of course Norwegian Air as well, but the unions are really, really fighting against Norwegian Air. The fact that they've got 737s in Milwaukee, Wisconsin flying to Cancun, Mexico, that doesn't seem a little strange to you guys, and these flight attendants and pilots that are, getting paid, at rates that are less than a quarter of what American crews are getting paid. It seems like job endangerment to these unions, which is another a whole nother issue. But man, it's interesting.
But it's interesting too, and I wonder, from a perspective more below wing, what's going on to maintain the airplanes. If they're paying their crews such baseline fares, compensation, whatnot. It makes you wonder what's going on below wing, and if they're keeping their maintenance standards up. They do have one of the youngest fleets, if not the youngest fleet in the world. But it makes you wonder, as their fleet ages, if they'll be able to keep up with that. It's all fuzzy and nice when you have a nice young fleet, but when your fleet starts aging and they require a lot more maintenance checks and updates and stuff like that, make you wonder if they'll comply or if they'll try to evade these higher level regulations by registering in another country or doing whatever. I read about a recent incident. I don't know where it was, but it had to do with one of their 737s, and it was two pilots, and they were both from like Somalia or somewhere. They were hired for the job, and they were going down the runway, and they cut takeoff, and they aborted the takeoff, and they remained on the runway. There's no clear indication how far they got. The flight attendants tried to call them, and they weren't really answering. And then they re-thrusted again, and then went up in the air from their current position after avoiding takeoff. So it was a very weird situation. It's on Av Herald. The way they worded it was kind of funny, but it's just very interesting, and it makes you wonder too. I'm not trying to sound like an alarmist here, but what goes on below the wing if they're training their crews properly. Because if they're not registering in their country of origin, then it makes you wonder what else they can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of outsourcing going on. That's for sure with that. We don't necessarily have the expertise to speak to the safety and security of that airline, but it is you're absolutely right. It is very interesting compared to the FAA standards and standards that are around the world too with airlines. So we'll see how this all plays out. But between the Gulf carriers and Norwegian, I got to tell you, the United States carriers are not very happy right now. So Ryan, let's move on a little bit. What's the next story we got going on today? Mr. Ryan, are you there?
Yeah. The next story we got going here is about Aegean Airlines, and they have some new stuff rolling here. Strong figures as the summer begins, which is interesting because we're coming off of the 2007-2008 Greek financial crisis, and they are really starting to do pretty well. So Greece's Aegean Airlines is the largest carrier in the nation with one of the youngest fleets in Europe. The fleet consists of 47 Airbus A320 and Airbus A321 aircraft, and 61 total airplanes when also counting the Olympic Air fleet. The airline is a member of the Star Alliance network. It serves destinations throughout Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. While numbers continue to grow for Allegiant, in the past they had faced a few major speed bumps. The airline faced the 2007-2008 Greek financial crisis and was able to recover from its effects and continue to grow, as we can see today. While dealing with issues such as the economic ones in Greece, the airline continues to be one of the few left in the world to provide, this is interesting, a full meal service to passengers in all cabins on almost all flights. So that's definitely something you don't see much anymore. Additionally, despite the issues, the airline received the Skytrax Best Regional European Airline Award in 2009 and every year from 2011 present. In the 2-month period between April and May of this year, the airline carried 2.1 million passengers. In this period of time, international traffic also increased 15% to year-on-year to 1.2 million passengers. Additionally, the increase in passengers is also attributed to load factor improvements by 8% to about 79% compared to last year. Whoa, 8% to 79%. That's a big jump. Most recently, Aegean took delivery of 7 new A320 airplanes in 2016. These aircraft allowed the airline to continue to serve additional destinations. The airline is currently eyeing A320neo and Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. So it's interesting. They are definitely coming up with the plans to purchase more airplanes. Aegean will carry between 18 and 19 million passengers in total. Airline Geeks writer Mateen Contrabodies wrote this story, so it's very.
They can keep those meals.
Yeah,
the last thing I want to do as a flight attendant is go through and hand out meals on every single flight. Can you imagine, like they did in the 80s or even the early 90s, handed out meals on a Super 80 between, Chicago and DC and main cabin?
No, as a passenger, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
No,
I was going to say, Parker, I'm on your boat with that one.
No
listen,
way.
I'm not a flight attendant now, so I will. Hey, if I'm in economy, I will take my meal. That sounds.
You could do like American did in the 90s and hand out bistro bags, which is like little cold sandwiches.
That sounds amazing.
A little boxed orange juice on it. But they did. I always have these senior ladies I fly with. I used to fly the DC-10 between Dallas and Austin. We did full pork loin between Dallas and Austin, and dessert carts and whatnot. I was like, oh gosh.
Tyler, is it safe to say you won't be trying to move over to Aegean anytime soon?
Yeah, no thanks. I can do all right with that. Although I gotta say, my dad just got back from hanging out in all the Greek islands and stuff like that. And holy smokes, is it beautiful out there? Beautiful, absolutely beautiful out there. So I got to get over there sometime. I'm gonna try and hop a flight over to Athens and see what's going on.
It's much better. Athens is the beginning. Santorini and all those islands are beautiful.
Oh yeah, my dad spent like 4 or 5 days on Santorini, and he was just in heaven. He did not want to leave. So it's pretty cool over there. That is for sure. We got one more story to get to today because everybody is waiting for this air traffic control interview, and we got to get to that. So, Ryan, something cool you shared with us today. You found in the archives of the World Wide Web. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I was flipping through, I don't know if it was Facebook or something, but I had a moment where I had remembered that United operated a worldwide cargo freighter. I didn't know this, actually. It was a bit before my time, but I do know that they operated DC-10-30 freighter aircraft. And this is in a Aviation Week report. Will launch international freighter service. They started on March 3rd, so 1997, linking the U.S. and Asia with 2 DC-10-30 freighter aircraft. Now, these were equipped. United Worldwide Cargo aircraft they had their own livery. If you Google it, United Worldwide Cargo DC-10, you should be able to pull up a few results. The aircraft flew between Chicago and Los Angeles via Anchorage to Osaka, Taipei, and Manila. 2 more DC-10s will begin operations in that following fall. So the fall of 1997. Expanding service to New York, San Francisco, and Tokyo. So it's very interesting. I didn't know. I wonder if United was the only carrier. I know Northwest had their own freighter service, but I wonder if United was the only carrier that still operates today that had their own freighter service. Because I know, like, you have Lufthansa Cargo, you have all these others. But it was just interesting because there's a Wall Street Journal article too. They had a pilot base in Anchorage just for these freighter operations, but unfortunately, people familiar with the carrier's plans said the business, which flies cargo between the U.S. and this is in the USA Today, or not USA Today, Wall Street Journal, U.S. and Asia via Anchorage with 4 DC-10 freighters, was posting an annualized operating loss of $40 million. So that definitely wasn't working out too well for them. And I'm sure after 9/11, it definitely did not end well.
That's crazy.
It's amazing to think about, though.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Because United will, let me read the last line here in this Wall Street Journal article. Because United will continue to offer passenger flights to Anchorage, it will need to keep some personnel in that city. Currently, it has 44 full-time employees and 52 part-time staffers there. This was as of when it was written a few years after it was shut down. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, can you imagine if like Delta started Delta Freight? Obviously, all the U.S. carriers have Delta. They'll have American Cargo, Delta Cargo. They had their own cargo operators with their low wide bodies and narrow body aircraft with cargo, or drop shipments or whatever. But can you imagine seeing like a Delta airplane that's converted into a freighter, like a 777-200, and it says Delta Cargo on the side? Like that is not something you will see, I don't think, in this day and age. It's easier just to throw it in the cargo holds where they're meant to be on those wide body flights. Yeah,
that would be pretty cool, actually, to be honest, but I don't think they're making enough money on that to keep that going. So something tells me that American or U.S. Airways, or American Airlines, not the airline, but Airlines in America. Gosh, I can't speak today. Airlines in America, the U.S. Airlines will not be taking that venture anytime soon, unless, of course, for some reason it becomes massively profitable, which I don't see happening anytime soon. So you guys, this is what a lot of our listeners have been waiting for, which is the interview with our friend who is an air traffic controller. His name is Lou, and he graciously allowed us to talk to him today. There's a lot of controversy going on with air traffic control right now. We did not touch on that in this interview. If you have any questions for a real air traffic controller about what's going on, please refer to the FAA and the national FAA offices for any questions about that. Couple disclaimers. Our friend Lou, who is giving this interview, or was gracious enough to give us this interview today, he does not represent his views and opinions, may or may not represent the views of the FAA. And just as a full disclaimer. He's making it very, very clear that anything that he says in this interview is not a necessary representation of his employer. So we hope you enjoy today's interview. This is from Lou, again, the air traffic controller. And here we go.
This is my 24th year of air traffic control between military and FAA air traffic control. I also had 1 year of contract in between that. I joined the military to become an air traffic controller. I went through their school, so to say, and I went to a few different places while I was serving for about 9.5 years. And then I got my few FAA certifications along the way, and that's how I got in.
Very, very cool. Forgive my ignorance, but air traffic control within in the military, is that with a specific branch?
Yes, it was with the Army. Almost every branch, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, they all have air traffic controllers. The Coast Guard, not many people think it was a military branch, but they are. They don't have air traffic control, but all the four main services that fall under the Department of Defense have those. Oh, very cool. Well, thank you for your service. We appreciate that. And what was the hiring and training process like from a civilian world? I do know a little bit about it. There are three ways to become an air traffic controller. Obviously, the first for me was through the military. The second way is through a CTI school, where you go to school to become an air traffic controller. You get a degree in air traffic control, or usually a minor in like aerospace management or airspace management or something. Not that long ago, college and 2 years of work experience total. And be off-cam, which requires a combination of a 4-year degree or 4 years of work experience. You can have, say, 2 years of college and 2 years of work experience total, and meet the prerequisites to apply to be an air traffic controller. CTI, I guess a lot of people who are listening to this already know that most people that went to CTI school were kind of a little bit incensed that, with the biographical questionnaire, it's kind of rendered their degrees kind of moot and useless. But hopefully within the next year or two, that'll all change, and CTI schools will be able to be more useful than they are right now. Yeah, I recall a lot of, hubbub, especially recently when the FAA opened up off-the-street hiring. Not that long ago, there was a lot of my friends that had been through CTI programs that didn't get accepted. They were pretty upset about that, So there's definitely a lot of, a lot of excitement around this position, especially when it comes to the hiring process. What type of area or controlling do you work in normally, and are you able to switch, positions from, let's say, from tower to an approach control or things like that? I actually work in an en route center, and each en route center is divided into 8 areas of specialization. And each area has, at least in Chicago area, each area works either departures or arrivals from a different corridor, like the West area. They primarily handle west departures off O'Hare and overflights. Every area handles overflights to a certain extent. The Northeast area, they handle arrivals from the Northeast area. The 4 main cardinal points are all departure areas, and the corners, the Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, and Northwest, they handle most of the arrivals. And we can't really switch it's even in our own building, so to say. Pretty much once you're in an area, you pretty much stay there unless you want to get out and do something like traffic management or become a supervisor. And switching to the terminal side or approach control, your tower, usually requires a change of station, where you have to apply, with every other person that's applying within the country or within the geographical region that was set in the bid, to apply like with everybody else to change stations, so to say.
Assuming you've had a few, without giving any specifics, what was your most intense or memorable emergency situation that you've had to handle? And seeing as though it's air traffic control is kind of patented as an extremely stressful job, what is it your military training background or things like that? What gives you the confidence that you're doing the great job that you're doing day in and day out?
Everybody kind of remembers their first emergency. I remember my first one. I was actually on a training exercise, and CH-47 had a transmission problem and just had to set it down really quick in a field about 3 miles from our location. Yeah, it was over as soon as it started. Really, you just get all the information that you can really quickly and pass it on, and let the maintenance people go out and take care of it. It was quick. That was it. And the only other one that comes to mind was an aircraft. Actually, it was a OH-58, which is a military version of a Jet Ranger. They called Mayday on our frequency about 20 miles south of our position, south of the field, and that was the last we heard of them. We sent out medevacs to go check on them, and then the medevac had a transmission chip detector light problem. Set it down in a field about half mile, and then we had to send out more aircraft to do a search patterns over the area. And when we finally found them 20 minutes later, the OH-58 only had a chip detector light problem, and the pilot was sitting outside smoking, having a cigarette. So there's 20 minutes of we think this guy augured in to a field, and turns out it was just a chip detector light problem. But we had so little information to go off of, we had to, go on it as it was a full-fledged incident.
Air traffic control is just given such almost a bad rep from the general public. It seemed as the most intense, stressful job, but I'm sure there's some misconceptions in that. And can you elaborate on those misconceptions and what makes a good air traffic controller?
Air traffic controllers, it's a combination of book smarts and common sense. You got to be able to apply it all really quickly. Being able to make quick decisions, and even if you realize that you made a wrong decision, being able to change it on the fly and correct it as far as en route goes. Tower and approach controls, they move a lot more quickly, but they're also more structured as far as what they can do. So, there's no one thing that makes a good air traffic controller. Everybody has different personality types. So you can't really say what makes a good air traffic controller, what doesn't really.
Any technological, culture, otherwise changes have you seen since you've been a controller? Whether in the military or all the way up to the private sector. Or, I'm sorry, ATC is not the private sector, is it? It's government.
It's governmental. There's a small federal contract tower program.
Sure.
They handle airports with smaller volume that don't necessitate having federal air traffic controllers there, but the funding does come from the federal government through a contract to companies, and the companies staff the towers. They're usually not staffed fully, but they're staffed well enough to run.
Sure.
Technologically, most en route centers now, but there's a few exceptions. Airports, sectors that have airport control all the way to the ground, they still have to use paper strips. But most sectors that don't touch the ground, like most en route centers, a lot of their sectors don't. Their airspace doesn't go all the way to the ground, so we're pretty much all using electronic flight strips now. Makes it pretty easy. New software and new radar screens in the past 6-7 years that that have some tools on it that make it a little bit easier. We just got a update to our next ride displays to where they're more accurate. We don't see as many bad returns from the precipitation on the ground. It's a lot more accurate, so to say, where we can accurately describe weather to pilots and help to give them a better picture of what's going on around them.
Where do you see the future of air traffic control going, or maybe where would you like to see the future going?
One thing that is coming out will be kind of fielded over the next few years, assuming the funding is still there for it. CPDLC, Controller of Pilot Data Link Communications, I guess it is being used in certain part of the country. It's being tested. I don't know to what degree of success, and I really haven't talked to many controllers that have used it. But from what I have heard, as far as how it works, it sounds like it might actually reduce our workload. When we actually need to talk to somebody, we'll still have that ability if we need to issue a control instructions. But as far as most aircraft that are just flying en route, say from New York to LA, if we don't need to talk to them, they'll just check on with the CPDLC, and that's it. And then we give them instruction to monitor the next frequency, and that's it.
I'd say that's pretty awesome. It's almost like text messaging, just pop it up, read your text, and keep moving.
Yeah. I guess they get an alert in the cockpit. I guess some of the pilots that use it on a more frequent basis than controllers do would have a lot more information about that than I do. Of course, I'm just going off of what we've been told and what to expect in the coming years. It sounds like we're slowly catching up with technology, but we've got a lot to do as far as getting the whole United States on board, just because there's so many sectors throughout and centers and approach controls throughout the country that it takes a long time to test it and get fielded to where everybody's on the same page.
If the salary of an air traffic controller was half of what it is today, would you still be doing this job?
Oh, yes. Easily. No question.
Excellent. And if you had to choose any other airline industry job, or maybe not even airline industry job, but since this is an airline podcast, I guess we'll talk about the airline industry. What would it be besides pilot? Because we get that all the time. Besides pilot, what job would you want to do?
I guess first officer is not an acceptable answer here, is it?
No, not yet.
No. I'd always thought dispatcher would be a good job, because you're still involved with the day-to-day operations of flights, with the flight planning, the load planning, fuel planning, even helping out with weather. I always thought that would be a great job to do, and something that even air traffic controllers, once they're eligible to retire, that's something they consider doing too.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are dispatchers at my airline, and they love it. They're just so enthralled with it. It's such a dynamic job. I mean, you really have to be the right person for it, but if anybody's the right person for it, I would definitely say someone who's in the air traffic control world. And it's fun. It's a cool gig, especially at my airline we have this area, and I'm sure most airlines have a very similar area, but they call it the war room. They've got the massive screens up, and you can see all the traffic, and it's so cool. It's just, if you're an airline nerd like us, you can definitely get involved with that kind of stuff. But Lou, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Really appreciate everything that you did for us, and can't wait to get this episode out to our listeners. So. Awesome. Thanks again, Lou. If you're hearing this, we really appreciate you giving your time and giving us a sneak peek into the world of an air traffic controller. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're all good.
Awesome. Yep. Cool. So anyways, that was Lou. Thanks, Lou. Once again, appreciate it. And we've got some exciting news coming up for those fans of airlinegeeks.com. We've got some more information about Aviation Day. Isn't that right, Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan?
All right. Well, looks like Ryan is having some audio trouble, as is Tyler. So, Joe, if you want to jump on it. So, Aviation Day, I believe it's August 18th this year. What do you know about it? Do you know the big news?
I don't actually know the big news. I'm hoping Ryan can jump in and really give us the update. Obviously, everyone knows Aviation Day, though, is on Friday, August 18th. We've got some great cities this year, similar to the ones last year, as well as a few surprises this year that we've talked about a little bit. It's obviously our big day partnering with American Airlines and really making the world's largest gathering of aviation and airline enthusiasts all together.
Awesome. So, Ryan, if you're on, please feel free to jump in. But listen, I'm looking forward to it this year. Joe, will you be going?
I will be. For all the people in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area, I'll be at headquarters in the IOC, so it should be an exciting time to be down there. How about you, Parker?
Yeah, I'll be out at DFW. So hopefully we can I don't know, meet up sometime around then. Maybe you can join me out at the airport later in the day.
Absolutely. Just talk about a great airport to plane spot from, though.
Oh my gosh, for sure. No, I love it, but it's gonna be even better airside.
Absolutely.
But anyways, I'm sure there will be more news about the about tickets when they'll go on sale. From I'm guessing Airline Geeks Twitter, Facebook. Oh, Tyler's back. And
Am I back?
Yeah, Tyler's back.
Okay. Hey, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, we're obviously having a ton of audio issues here, but that's the fun of doing a live show. Make sure you check out, and this is a great reason for all of you to subscribe to our podcast right now, and make sure you check out our real podcast. You can hear the post-edited version, which is a lot better than the live version today for some reason. That's okay. Everybody has technical difficulties now and again. Once again, we really hope you enjoyed that interview with Lou, and we are talking about Aviation Day right now, right?
Yeah. I think Ryan had the big news, but
he bailed on us. He just doesn't want us to hear the big news. I tell you what, head over to our Inside the Airlines at Airline Podcast Twitter, and Ryan will tweet it out, and we might even retweet it somewhere else. So, it looks like Ryan gave us the surprise. He's typing to us right now. This is hilarious, guys. I got to tell you. So Ryan is expecting, he's letting us know right now, this is breaking news for all you Airline Geeks fans. Ryan says, we are expecting the tickets to go up next weekend. Gasp. Okay. So next weekend, right now they're waiting on final confirmation from LAX. So if you're interested, so you might be wondering, if you're a new listener, what is Aviation Day? Aviation Day is Friday, August 18th, 2017, brought to you by AirlineGeeks.com. Aviation Day is in partnership with American Airlines, which is the world's largest airline, which is bringing you the world's largest gatherings of aviation and airline enthusiasts from across all the different hubs and major key cities to American Airlines. I mean, we're talking worldwide. Definitely check out AirlineGeeks.com for more information about this. There will be advanced notice for these free tickets. These are free tickets, okay, but spots are extremely limited because they're free. If you're an airline nerd or an aviation enthusiast, you need to get to this party. This is going to be throughout major different cities. Definitely check out airlinegeeks.com for which cities we're going to be doing it in, but most likely it's going to be a lot of American Airlines hubs throughout the system. We're talking DC, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Dallas, Fort Worth, New York City, all different places. Chicago. I'm assuming there's going to be Chicago. Is that right?
I think you're right. And then we're also going all the way across the pond with Paris, London.
London. This is a worldwide event.
Worldwide party.
So definitely stay tuned for more details. As it gets closer, we'll give out even more details here on the podcast. This is a party with two A's, as Ryan likes to say, a double A party for American Airlines. So definitely stay tuned to at Airline Podcast and at Airline Geeks and airlinegeeks.com. We're super sorry about any technical difficulties, but we definitely hope you enjoyed this live show for those that are listening. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. And Joe, where can we find more information about yourself or any other Airline Geeks projects going on?
So feel free to just check us out at airlinegeeks.com. And then my Twitter handle is Joe's World Travel. So any updates I have, go out there.
Awesome. And Mr. Parker, as everybody knows, you are the ultra famous Dallas-Fort Worth spotter. We have to pay him $10,000 an episode just to be here. This guy is ridiculous. He's got about 36 quadrillion followers on Instagram at Dallas-Fort Worth spotter, all spelled out. And what's your Twitter handle again, Mr. Parker?
Dallas FW spotter. Everything there from pictures to Airline Geeks links. I mean, go check it out. You'll enjoy it.
Definitely go check it out. And Mr. Ryan, Flying High Ryan, of course, everybody knows him. He's verified. He's a celebrity at this point. So, and of course, at Airline Geeks and at Airline Podcast. My name is Tyler. You can follow me at Airline Podcast. And this has been another exciting episode of Inside the Airlines. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed that interview from Lou. And we'll catch you next weekend for another great episode. Stay tuned to airlinegeeks.com, everybody, and have a great night.
See you next time.
American 1027 is on the visual.
American 1027 on to tower, wind 250 at 17, depth 23, flying an airbus 3 mile final, runway 18 right, clear to land.
Deadland 18 right, American 1027.